Very strange things. The Voyagers, long gone from the solar system, suddenly got in touch and alarmed scientists with new data. Now NASA is urgently looking for people across the country who were involved in the launch of vehicles into space. Initially, it was believed that Voyager 1 and Voyager 2, which flew into space in the late 70s, exceeded their program tenfold. The estimated service life of the devices was several years, but they worked for several decades and should have flown into the depths of space long ago. The last point at which it is still possible to receive data from devices will be passed in 2025. However, quite unexpectedly, scientists resigned to the loss of the probes began to receive mysterious data sets from spacecraft. NASA scientists have summed up the preliminary results of the legendary Voyager mission coming to an end. The report said that these probes have given humanity a map of the cosmic coastline separating the solar system and interstellar space. At the same time, new data on the solar plasma will be obtained in the coming year, which greatly affects the well-being of Earthlings. But it is not this information that worries researchers at all. Those who were born in the year of the launch of Voyagers and who have survived to this day are already 45 years old. In America, this is the generation of Voyager. There is even a film with the same name, Voyagers. This space odyssey NASA rewrote astronomy and astrophysics textbooks, revealing Saturn's turbulent atmosphere, Jupiter's transforming rings, Neptune's great dark spot GDS 89. How would humanity have known that there are volcanoes on Jupiter if not for Voyager 1? Despite the fact that astronomy is an ancient science, it was the Voyagers that were able to truly convince a person that the sky is not a black canopy studded with shiny droplets. There are about 200 moons in the solar system. Voyagers have made discoveries in the field of active geology of these satellites, recorded on photographic film thousands of hydrocarbon lakes and rivers located on their surface. In the 80s, the scientific community was amazed by the discovery that the outer moons are not dead frozen worlds, but objects on which amazing processes take place that can tell a lot about the solar system, often even more than the planets can. As for the main planets of the solar system, Voyagers collected a lot of data on their atmosphere, discovered 10 satellites of Uranus and 6 satellites of Neptune, geysers in the atmosphere of Titan, Saturn's satellite. Adrastea, Theba and Métis were discovered by the moons of Jupiter. Voyager 2 was the only lander to visit Uranus and Neptune. It took a lot of effort to capture Neptune, because it is 900 times darker there than on Earth or on the Moon. Carl Sagan supervised the filming process. For this, the probe had to be slowed down as much as possible, to shoot with wiring, that is, smoothly synchronizing the camera movement with the movement of Voyager. But humanity now has pictures of Neptune. The famous family portrait burst that captures the solar system is especially memorable for the pale blue dot image of the Earth from a distance of 6 billion kilometers. The Earth there is a barely visible tiny blue dot, about which Carl Sagan said this: "Perhaps there is no better demonstration of stupid human arrogance than this distant picture of our tiny world. It seems to me that it emphasizes our responsibility, our duty to be kinder to each other, to preserve and cherish the pale blue dot, our only home." Each of the Voyagers is made up of 65,000 elements, many of which have a large number of equivalent, smaller parts such as transistors. This is a surprisingly complex and well thought out system for its time. The Voyager's power consumption system was based on plutonium-238, thanks to which the probe worked tens of times longer than the estimated time. One of the instruments that has always troubled astronomers is the plasma wave detector on Voyager. For the first time, the device sent a failure and a strange dataset while approaching the heliosphere. Its inner edge turned out to be so dense that the plasma wave detector literally went crazy. Simultaneously with this event, the signals of Voyager 1 disappeared for the first time for a long time, and scientists, desperate to wait, decided that the project was over. However, in 2012 there were powerful emissions of solar energy. They ionized the plasma around the probe, and signals from space reached the Earth. At the same time, Voyager 2, far behind, finally caught up with its brother. He sent data, according to which the heliosphere is not spherical, as previously thought, but deformed by flows of interstellar matter and has many creases like dents on a car body. In 2021, both Voyagers sent strange signals to Earth. According to some data, this is the rumble of interstellar matter. According to others, noise provoked by powerful flares on the Sun. According to another assumption, the space in the outskirts of the solar system is like soap foam, and the probes heard the movement of particles of this foam, which in itself is very surprising. After that, astrophysicist Stella Oak from Cornell University came to the conclusion that the hum of the foam caught by the Voyager sensors could measure the density of the plasma all year round. And not only the density, but also the movement of its particles. It turned out that at a certain stage they are no longer held by the gravity of the Sun and go into interstellar space, filling it up to the very borders of the heliosphere, to those limits where something completely inaccessible to mankind begins. Voyagers very well outlined this coastline, separating the solar system and interstellar space. But in early 2022, researchers made another important discovery. It turned out that the devices that flew outside the solar system are actually closer to the Earth, and that is why they get back in touch and send data that they should not have sent. The researchers note that the trajectory of the flight of the Voyagers into space is to blame. Probes fly into the depths of space not in a straight line, but in a spiral, captured by a gigantic force inside the solar system. Periodically, they line up with the Earth, due to which the transmitting modules on the probes and NASA's powerful antennas on Earth are synchronized to transmit data. Among other data, the Voyagers also sent a new piece of information about the plasma bombardment that hit Earth on the night of March 31, 2022. Astronomers rated the geomagnetic impact at 7 points and called it the most powerful in the past few years. It is already known that it hit the health of weather-sensitive people, as well as the condition of the inhabitants of the Earth with chronic diseases. It can be assumed that if there were no protective layer, then life on Earth would become impossible. And what is in the interstellar space itself can only be assumed. As of March 31, 2022, Voyager 1 is located at a distance of 14,600,000,000 miles from the boundaries of the Oort cloud. There are space building materials, in other words, debris left over from the construction of the solar system, and Voyager 2 is 12,700,000 miles. They are moving at 54,000 miles per hour. A complete decryption of all the data that the devices have sent over many years can stretch over the next 10 years and end only in the early 2030s.